Here I have the CMF Phone 1, which is a $200 Android smartphone from the brand CMF, which is a sub-brand of Nothing, which is fairly new in the smartphone space. Nothing, of course, was founded by one of the co-founders of OnePlus, and then CMF is kind of the budget off-brand of Nothing. And this is actually their first phone that they've released. This is the CMF Phone 1, and like I said, $200. It's made almost entirely of plastic, but it has kind of a unique design to it and some really interesting choices when it came to what to include and what not to include. So let's go over what exactly this phone is. So let's get the specs out of the way for this device. So this device has a 6.7-inch AMOLED 120 Hz display. It has a MediaTek 7300 on it, 5G. It has 128 gigabytes of storage with 8 gigabytes of RAM, and that storage is upgradable via a micro SD card slot, which is also in the SIM card holder. It supports 45-watt wired charging, no wireless charging. And that's kind of about it. Those are kind of the main things. So for kind of the non-techie folks, this has a pretty mid-range processor, not bad at all, not necessarily a budget processor, and it has a good amount of storage, about average for a phone now, 128 gigabytes of storage. And for $200, this is a pretty well-spec'd phone for $200, especially considering that the design is somewhat unique compared to some other cheaper devices or devices that are within this price range, which there aren't even that many smartphones that are within this price range anymore. And considering that the display is actually a really good display, has a built-in fingerprint sensor and optical fingerprint sensor. So right here I can just actually click on it. See, it didn't work the first time, and it's fairly decent. It's not the best in the world, but it does read my fingerprint maybe 80% of the time. And the times that it doesn't, it actually has the ability to unlock your device with just your face, with the front facing camera. Nothing crazy here. It doesn't have something like Face ID, it doesn't have optic ID, it doesn't have anything like the old like the Galaxy S9 used to have, where it reads your retinas. It's just the front-facing camera, which works actually pretty well. You certainly do not have to enable that. You can't use that for purchases or logging in certain applications, but you can use your fingerprint for those. So let's go over the design of the CMF Phone 1. So here's the design. I have this back plate on, which I will show you kind of the unboxing of that, but this is actually a blue backplate that I attached and then put on the black screws from the original color that they gave you. This depth sensor is never really used. The only thing that CMF has said that this is used for is basically for portrait shots to help identify what is in the foreground, what's in the background, but you would never really use this camera yourself, just kind of this primary camera here. So yeah, on the sides here, what we have is we just have one single power button here on the right hand side, and then on the left hand side we have the volume rockers. So volume and then power button, pretty small actually, power button especially. That's one thing when I was using this phone that I felt was a little just odd about it. Like, I was reaching for the power button, I'm like, oh, it's this little one right here. I kind of wish that they would have made this just a little bit bigger, but not a big problem. The buttons themselves are fairly clicky. They're nothing crazy, like they're not as good as like the iPhone or the Pixel's kind of clicky buttons, but they are decent. They're not that bad. Moving over to this front display, it's almost a full screen display. There is a bezel kind of around the top, sides, and bottom, with the bottom being a little bit thicker than the top. Nothing too crazy though. And this display is actually a 6.7-inch AMOLED 120 Hz display, so it's actually really good, and it can get up to 700 nits in regular usage or 2000 nits with HDR content. So right now it's kind of up to the max, but it's easy enough to see in daylight when you're outside, or when you're inside or doing different tasks. I never once while using this was like, oh, I wish it was a little bit brighter. It was perfectly fine for me. So this display is actually one of the highlights of the device. It's vibrant enough. Obviously it's an AMOLED display. The colors can be a little inaccurate at times, but you can in the settings choose to make the colors more natural or more vivid. Looking at outdoor visibility here on the display, as I mentioned before, this has 700 nits brightness for regular content, and then for HDR content it can go up to 2000 nits. So here it is in the shade outside, so you can pretty easily see it here. If I move it, you can kind of tell, okay, maybe it's a little bit harder to see off axis, but not bad. Once I go over here in the sun, it's still actually pretty visible. The sun is directly on it right now, and you can still see the icons, still interact with it. And this is with, you know, kind of a darker theme on it as well. So really, I don't think that there's any issues with the display brightness at all. Looking at ports here in the device, there's only one port. There's the USB-C port here in the bottom, which can charge the device up to 45 watts wired. As I mentioned, there is no wireless charging. But to the right of it, actually have the one mono speaker. So this does not use a stereo pair, does not use the earpiece to output any actual audio. All the audio is coming out of this bottom firing speaker. And then next to that is the SIM card tray, which also doubles as a micro SD card slot, which is great. So you can upgrade the storage in here. So even though it only comes with 120 gigabytes of storage, you can upgrade that to if you're taking a bunch of photos, or if you have games or whatever else on there. Nothing else really at the top besides just a microphone and of course the buttons, as I mentioned before. And then as for like the sides are flat, so similar to like the Nothing Phone 1, Nothing Phone 2, or an iPhone. And while on earlier iPhone models, it kind of dug into people's hands as you're kind of holding it. So if you're holding it like this, the edges would kind of scrape in your hands. I've had no troubles using this device. I think it's pretty comfortable actually to hold, because the sides are not made out of any kind of metal or glass. It's just plastic, so it's a bit softer on your hand. So really no issues here. Same thing with the size. I thought the size when I first got it would be too much. I very much prefer like 6.1 inch devices. But it's really not that bad to hold, especially since most of the screen at the front is actual screen. There's very little actual bezel there. That's really all there is for the design section of it. Obviously there's a little flash here, and then the cameras, as I mentioned before. But yeah, that's really all there is to kind of talk about. Let's do a little unboxing experience here of the CMF Phone 1. So here's the box, the front of it, kind of cool. It shows the two little camera lenses right here, and then of course the little screws that you can take the back off. This is the black version, so it has the black backing as well as the black sides. Really there's not a whole lot to it. There's these little pull tabs here on the bottom that you pull up rather than like over like you would on kind of Apple devices. It just says nothing right here on the side, and then that's kind of about it. It's kind of interesting that it does say nothing, since this is basically a Nothing Phone 2A, but packaged a little bit differently. I think a lot of the components are the same, even though this is technically from their sub-brand CMF. But let's just open it on up here. So pull on these little pull tabs. I won't show you the back since that has some of the serial number information. And then we'll just go ahead and pull this on up, just like most other phone cases. And then here it is right at the top. So here's the device. It has a few little things here before I pull off this little plastic sheet, but it just says hold down for 3 seconds to turn on the device, volume buttons over here. And it says to replace the back cover, first remove the SIM tray, then remove the 4 screws and the accessory interface, which this is the accessory interface, I guess. So it says right here that unlocked is on the left side, locked is on the right side. So you can kind of just twist this. It's like a little thumb screw basically. And then the mic is on the bottom. So actually just pull this on out of here. And then I don't know if there's much else here in the box. As you can see, it just says to recycle it. Once I take this on up, really the only other thing that's in here is the cable. So pretty basic, like probably the most basic USB-C cable you can get. This is not the same cable that you get with the Nothing Phone, which is kind of see-through. This is just basic plastic. It reminds me of like a Google Pixel USB-C to C cable. So there's that. And then in here we have a little quick start guide. More information, you can scan that, and I think it's just kind of regulatory information. So that's really all that's here in the box. Besides this bottom part here, which if I pull this on out, this is just the SIM tool. So it has this little, it almost looks like the end of like a super glue container. Just a little plastic end piece, and then this is the SIM ejection tool. Does not come with the actual screwdriver bit. I believe that comes with the different backings. So if you get a different back, it should come in that case, which comes with the SIM tool on one side and then like a flat screwdriver on the other side. So that's all that's really in here. Let's take a look at the phone now. So I already looked at the stuff on the back, so I'll actually just pull this little tab here, which is a little strange the way the adhesive is on there. And then you just pull top and bottom. Here's the front of the device. So pretty simplistic. I'll turn on the device as well, but there's kind of the front, and then here's the back. So plastic backing right here, just kind of from first impressions. It feels more substantial than I thought it would. It doesn't feel, you know, the whole device is made out of plastic. It doesn't feel super light though. I think it's got some kind of heft to it, which is kind of nice. Buttons here on the side, decently clicky. And then the screws here, there's screws, I think there's 4 of them, it said. Yeah, here, 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 and here. And then this little like thumb screw at the end, which I believe you can rotate to the left, lefty loosey, righty tighty, and then take off the back. So you can replace this back with different colors. So you can get like, I think they have a blue one, an orange one, green one, and then this black one as of right now. And I think you can also make or order some other additional ones as well. So this device does run Nothing OS on it. So it's basically like a Nothing phone, just with a little bit of a different outside here. So what we do here is we're clicking in the hello. This device does come with a pre-applied screen protector. I'm just gonna take it off since it makes the phone, or screen at least, feel kind of cheap. So just know that it's already pre-applied. Don't have to put it on yourself, but every phone that you will get will come with a screen protector already on it. In addition to the phone itself, I also got one of the cases that they sell for the back as well. So this one is the blue one, so it just says case on here. And what you do is you basically take off those 4 screws that we looked at earlier, and then you can just plop this case right on the back. So it really reminds me of like the original Moto G, how they had all those plastic backs that you could take off. You can get a bunch of different colors and you put it back on there and you can really kind of personalize it. So that's kind of what this reminds me of. So what we'll do is I actually take this on out and then put it on here, kind of show you that process. And then hopefully it'll get a little new look. All right, so if you decide to get one of these cases, this is what's gonna be in the box. So just open up here in the bottom, slide it on out. There's a little user guide here that basically explains how to take this off, or how to take the current one off and put the new one on. So take out the 4 screws, rotate the little accessory cover on the back, which I guess is what it's called, the accessory cover, and then you just pry it off, put on the new one, and then you're all good to go. So I will do that. Here's the actual case itself though. And interestingly, this blue one at least has a different texture here on the back versus the regular case. This one is just kind of a flat plastic. Definitely feels like plastic. And this one is a little more textured, as you can see. It's almost like it almost feels like a fake, like a pleather kind of texture. Don't think it is, but it definitely feels more like that than the other one. This one has the same branding on it. This is actually printed into it versus just inked onto it. So as you see in this case, it's just printed on there. This one is actually kind of stamped into the case itself. And then here's kind of the back of it. So it gives you this little spot right here. Nothing too crazy here. And then what else you have here in the box? You actually have this little tool here, which I guess if I take this on and off, this is a screwdriver and a SIM injection tool, kind of a combo kit, which is kind of cool. I like this. I like how it's got the little orange accent too. So you can use this little flathead screwdriver to take out the screws in the original one, put in the new ones, and then this ejects the SIM card tray, which you got to do in order to actually take out the other ones. So in here you have this little accessory cover, a blue one. So this can go right onto this little side section. And what I would guess too is that this is the same one as this. So you can kind of use whichever one you want. You can mix and match a little bit. So let me see if I can do that. I'm gonna put this on and then we'll see how it looks. So after taking absolutely everything out of the box, this is exactly what the case comes with, which is kind of interesting. So it does come with this back obviously, but then it does come with new screws that you can put in here, which are a different color than the screws actually on the phone. These ones are silver versus the other ones that are black. You could probably use either one. And it does come with a blue SIM card tray as well, which matches the case for the bottom. But again, probably mix and match those a little bit. So we'll go through that. All right, so here's what the back of the device looks like. So it says, warning, do not disassemble the battery. The battery is underneath here. Obviously, you can take off this little just plastic layer, but not supposed to be user removable. It is gonna be a lot easier to remove though than a regular smartphone because you can just take off the back, take this off, and then pry out the battery, but it's not supposed to be user removable. Anyway, you can see the CMF branding right here. And then this is kind of what the back plate looks like. So if we wanted to put actually this other one on here, so here's the blue one. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna press it right on in the same area. It just snaps right on in. And now it's on the device. So now I'll put in those screws, screw in this little last one, and then kind of show you how it looks. So here's the new back plate, completely reassembled, and you can just put in the same screws from the other one. So I put in actually the black screws, and then this black accessory mount or whatever they call this, and then I put in the black SIM card tray as well. So it kind of has just a little bit of a contrasting look. I kind of like it versus just using the blue one. And you could do the opposite too. I'm sure that you could just have the black case, just have this little blue accent. That would probably look cool as well. But as I mentioned before, this back is a little bit different feeling. It's got a little bit of a texture to it, and I kind of like it. It does feel like a fake leather. I'm not sure, durability wise, if it's any different. I'm sure it's still just the same plastic. Same thing up here, like with the colors, like it's very similar to the black one. It's just different coloring. So instead of having a darker metal up here, it's more of a silver. And same thing with the buttons. The buttons are silver on this blue one versus on here where they're kind of a little bit of like a graphite metal. Like I said, there's different colors of it. The colors you can kind of look at for yourself and see what you like. There's a green one, blue one, black one, and orange one. The orange one I think would be pretty cool as well. But I'm a big blue fan, so I think that this kind of fits my whole aesthetic here. So despite technically being from a different brand, this phone does run the full version of Nothing OS, which is Nothing Skin on top of Android, which I actually have really enjoyed while using this device. I haven't actually used Nothing OS before using this device, and there are a lot of like really good additions to stock Android. It isn't anything crazy like One UI where they skin on top of everything, they change icons and they add a bunch of bloat. This actually is pretty close to stock. It just has like a few different icons. They have kind of the matrix dot theme throughout, and like I said, there's a few just little like additions to it that are actually really useful. So we'll kind of walk through some of the cool things that Nothing OS has on this device. So I thought it'd be important to talk about Nothing OS, which is the OS over stock Android that runs on this phone. As I mentioned, it's pretty close to stock, but with a lot of great little additions to the software. So as you can kind of see right now, it is customized, right, with Nothing's icons. And there's a lot of different things in the settings and a lot of different icons than you get from stock Android, or you can kind of ignore it all and set it up just like a regular Android phone. So just looking here at the home screen, it's run pretty similar to any other Android device. Swipe up for your apps, swipe over, and then you can get to your Google Discover feed. And then of course you have all your apps on here and different widgets. As you can see, there are specifically, nothing widgets on here. So for example, this one shows the weather, just that, okay, it's cloudy outside. Same thing with the clock, you can kind of customize it. If we actually go into settings, there's a lot of different things that you can actually do with it. So if we actually scroll down here, I'm gonna go to settings. So diving into settings, there's a lot of different customization options that you can choose from on this device. So if I actually scroll down to customization, here it gives you the option to select a few different things. So right here on the home screen, as you can see, I have this icon pack selected. So built into the device, you have 3 main packs that you can choose from. So there's the default one, which is just basically stock Android. Same way the icons would look on any other device. They're the colorful ones that you can have be different shapes, like a circle, squircle, square. It has that dynamic theming there. You can have the nothing one, which applies all the apps with this nothing theming in with their dot matrix type of iconography. And then of course on here we have color. So this color is just like the Material U, like you would find on other devices like the Pixel or like a Nokia or HMD device. And this just does basically Material U. You can choose what colors you want with it, or you can just go with the nothing pack. Of course, you can add different icon packs too that you can find in the Play Store, and you can really customize it any way that you want. I know some devices, most launchers actually, already allow you to kind of customize which icon pack you're looking at. But if you're using something like the Pixel launcher, that doesn't allow you to do that built in. You have to download something like Nova Launcher or something like that. But Nothing OS launcher has that built right in, so that's super cool. So right now that's kind of what I have it selected on. What you can also do here is obviously you can go into colors just like the Material U, so you can check off from certain backgrounds, and you can just have it be basic colors like, oh, I want some of the theming to be, for example, it gives you here like here's what the calculator app might look. Okay, maybe I want it to be this green color on here, which you can kind of see that's green. Or you can just put it back to kind of the default or what your wallpaper colors are, really whatever you want. I'm just going to stick with this one for now at least. So yeah, that's kind of what it gives you for customization options there. Layout gives you the same thing that basic Android does. 4 columns or 5 columns. I kind of like the 4 columns, a little bit bigger icons. You can select if you want app labels on things, so tell you that it is photos, or if you just want it to be more simple, you can turn that off. Same thing with the search bar. Do you want that in the dock? Do you not? One kind of cool thing here though, actually, I want to look at is with wallpaper. So obviously this phone comes with a bunch of built-in wallpapers that nothing has provided, but they also have in here Wallpaper Studio, which is an AI feature that's actually built into this phone that will allow you to create a new wallpaper. So, first off here we have the nothing icon, so pretty simple and kind of fits with the theme of Nothing OS, or you can just have it be basic colors, or you can obviously upload whatever thing you want. But if you go in here to the Wallpaper Studio, what this will allow you to do is you can select 2 different themes for what you want your wallpaper to be like. So scrolling through the kind of this top one, you can have it be different, basically topics like sky, terrain, flowers, that type of stuff. And then the bottom, you can combine it with something like, maybe I want it to look like a painting. Maybe I want it to look like a photograph. Maybe I want it to be more graphic or ink or that kind of stuff. So for example, like let's just say I wanted to do terrain actually, and I want to do graphic, since I think that would look kind of cool. What I'll do here is I can actually click create wallpaper, and then it'll just have you agree to it. So it'll say, okay, these are the 2 things that you want, and then on device, it'll process a wallpaper here for you. So right now, it created this terrain, like this graphic terrain, which is kind of cool, right? It's kind of mountainous, and you can set this as your wallpaper. You can recreate it, so you can do a different one, or you can just download that wallpaper if you maybe wanted to send it to a different device, or just save it for anything else. So I'll actually just set this for now. So same thing with pretty much any other Android device. Just set it how you like to. You can have it kind of scroll around. So I'll have that kind of be the default for now. You can have it be atmosphere too. So atmosphere will use the same wallpaper, very similar to an iPhone, where if you unlock it, then it will become more blurred kind of in the background. And then you can turn on glass as well. If you want it to look kind of like a glass shade on your lock screen, here's kind of what it looks like without that atmosphere on. So kind of moves around a little bit. I'll actually just keep that on for now. So that's that option there. So you can customize this really in a bunch of different ways. Or you can have it make one constantly. Right? You could change this every week if you really wanted to. So that's just one little feature that they have in here. Another thing that they actually have in Nothing OS is for the lock screen. So I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to click on this lock screen option here in settings. They have the same basic, lock screen type of things that Android has always had. However, this does have lock screen widgets and lock screen shortcuts. So if you click on lock screen shortcuts first, you can customize what you want the left and the right to do. Actually, the iPhone just gained this feature. Some Android devices have been able to do this, some haven't been able to. But Nothing OS has this right baked in. So right now I just have the device controls kind of on the left shortcut. What I can do in here is I can select from a bunch of different things. So, maybe I want the flashlight to be on the left. So we'll do that. And then on the right, probably would want the camera. So we'll just do camera. Now those are set up for the lock screen. So both will be on there. So if I actually lock the device, unlock it, now these two options are right here on the screen. If I wanted to, for example, turn on the flashlight's on now, and now it's off. So pretty easy way to go about kind of customizing that. And the other thing that I want to look at on here was the lock screen widgets. So click on lock screen widgets here. So this is kind of unique, I guess, to this device. Again, iPhone kind of similar. I hate having to keep compared to that, but they do have similar lock screen shortcuts here. So Nothing allows you to put various things on the top of your lock screen. So for example here, you can put different versions of the clock. You can put different times, dates, photos, how much screen time you're doing, if you want a compass, if you want certain quick settings, which this is actually pretty useful. So for example, if you know, okay, I always want my auto rotate to be on or off, or I'm constantly toggling on the airplane mode, I can kind of add that. So if I actually click in here in the quick settings, this gives you a bunch of different quick settings you can put there right on the lock screen. So quick settings, obviously you pull down from your notifications shade and then they're down there, but you can put them in your lock screen as well. So if I wanted to put something on here like alarm, maybe you access your alarm all the time. Okay, I want that to kind of be here on my lock screen. And then, maybe I wanted to add another one such as, let's say, I want to put the calculator on there because I access the calculator a lot. You can drag these, rearrange them, really do whatever you want with these quick settings. So now if I actually go back to the lock screen, I turn it on, these will be right here. And you can resize these, you can make them bigger, smaller, whatever. But I should just click on this, it'll open up that calculator app right there for me so I can go and type stuff in. So kind of a cool little customization feature that they have here. There are also some more system settings within Nothing OS here. So for example, they have game mode, which changes the device and kind of ramps it up for gaming if you're doing certain things. So if you're playing a game, it'll give you a game sidebar, so quick little panel to access some things while you're gaming. It'll stop notifications from coming in. You can enable things such as mistouch prevention. So if you're basically holding the phone on your side and maybe your thumbs are kind of leaning into something, that will enable that for you. And then there's a few different, additional things that you can do here, like on the game dashboard with the floating icon. But they have game mode type of stuff. They have a RAM booster, which, do I think this actually does something? Not really. I don't really see a reason as to why you would need this. You can't necessarily just add RAM to a phone, but basically what it says here is that it can expand the RAM of your phone by taking some storage space in order to be used for RAM. You can up that to 8 gigabytes if you want to. You can completely turn that off. Totally up to you. I'm just going to keep it on the default as 2 gigabytes for now. They also have things on here like pop-up view. So really easy multitasking for certain things. You drag it up. And then this allows you to kind of move around this window, basically like a pop-up window. Like if you're watching a YouTube video, now I have this app that's kind of running here on the side. I can resize it, I can move it around, or I can just click in, and that will allow me to kind of see the application again. So I'll show you here once more. Slide up, release, and then it has this little window here. If you want to get rid of the window, you simply tap on it. It gives you a bigger view. Then you can just pull basically down on this little tab. It'll bring you right back to the app. So again, just like little fun features kind of within this system OS. There's a few things that additional are in here. I don't want to go into every single thing, but and then you just have the basic Android features as well that you've always had for a while, and this will continue to get updated as well over time. One really interesting one is if you actually go under experimental features, one option that they have here is it says AirPods support. So it says show AirPods icon and battery info in your settings. So normally in an Android device, it would just treat AirPods just like a regular pair of headphones. It uses and say the battery percentage, it just connects to them and it can stream music to it. But if you enable this and then you actually go to your settings here, as you can see here, it says Tristan's AirPods and it shows the AirPods icon very similarly to how it would on an iPhone. And actually click into it here. It gives me the battery percentage for the left, the right, and the case. It's just a general like battery percentage. And you know, it gives me the same basic options I would for any other device like this. But very interesting that it adds this one particular feature. I guess that there are just that many people that have AirPods that also have an Android device, and they're like, hey, you know, we can add better compatibility with this. So kind of interesting to know. This device by itself does get 2 years of OS updates and I believe 3 years of security updates. So not bad for a $200 phone. It's not gonna be as good as obviously the flagship Nothing devices or a Pixel device, which I think gets up to 6 years now of OS updates, or an iPhone. However, it's decent, right? You get 2 years worth of new features that are being added, and Nothing has already added a bunch of features already within just the past year. So a lot to look forward to here. Really kind of customize it without being completely bloated like Samsung's One UI is, or how TouchWiz used to be. Like, it's pretty simple here, and some people love this kind of dot matrix vibe. Some people don't really like it, and if you don't like it, you can turn a lot of it off. So overall, I'd say this is a really great software experience for a phone in this price range. All right, so now I'm going to go over the cameras. I'm just going to give you a few photo samples that I took from this device, as well as comparisons between this device and an iPhone 15 Pro, which generally is one of, if not the best camera that's out now on a phone. So we'll just look at those comparison shots as well as some video shots. So, you know, this will give you probably a good, accurate representation of how photos will look on here if you're sharing it on social media, sending it to friends, making videos yourself. Again, I'm not a pro photographer in any way, so this would be kind of showing you what you can really get out of this if you're just like a regular person. So here's a video sample from the CMF Phone 1. Hopefully you can see visually how it looks, and then audio how it looks. So here's some of these flowers, these pollinator friendly flowers. There's a bunch of bumblebees over here. Probably gonna attack me if I try to throw this at them or something. There's a flower, there's a bee. So let me know how the video quality looks. And then here's a video sample from the front facing camera. So this is, you know, just on the default settings, regular 1080p, 30 frames per second. It can record 4K on the back camera, either 30 or 60 FPS. Front camera can do 1080p, 30 FPS, or 60 FPS. So, you know, let me know how this looks. Just from the viewfinder. looks fine to me, but it is kind of cropped in. I'm holding this about as far out as I can with just my hand, and this is kind of what it's capturing. So not the widest of cameras. I do believe that there is EIS on this right now. Like I said, this is just the default setting, so what you take out of the box is kind of what you get out of the box, I guess, would be this video. So, woo, how fun. Alright, so I'm just going to do a little vlog type of style, talk about some of the things from this phone that I've noticed while using it, while also giving you a sample of what this phone looks like. So the video right now is filming obviously from the front-facing camera, and there is no option in the settings, at least that I can find, that allows you to turn off the electronic image stabilization, because it definitely has some to an extent. You know, if I move like this, kind of weird. There's no option to turn that off, and it can only go up to 1080 60, which is totally fine from front facing camera. However, the biggest thing that I'm noticing while filming it is that it's really zoomed in, because it's trying to stabilize the video. Like if I didn't have my arm all the way out, let's say I had it like kind of somewhat close, this is really up close and personal. I don't want it to be that up close and personal. I think the quality from it though is fine, video wise. But as for the device itself, you do notice when you're using it, especially compared to other phones, that it's pretty light. It's lighter than obviously most phones made of metal or glass, right? Which pretty much every phone now is made out of. However, it doesn't feel so cheap that it's gonna like snap in half if you like accidentally sit on it or something. You know, it feels solid enough. It just feels pretty light for how big it actually is, because it is a 6.7 inch display, so who knows. All right, now here's a video from the rear camera. So this is just, again, me holding it out right now. Other things about the device, the vibration motor is okay. It's definitely not great, but it's not like the worst I've ever felt. It's definitely not up to par as something like the iPhone, Pixel, or even the Galaxy device now. But like it's not as terrible as I think a lot of vibration motors in this price range are. The biggest thing, the thing that I hate the most about using this phone is the audio. The one speaker, so there's a mono speaker here on the bottom of the device, and that's the only speaker that produces any volume while you're listening to media. It's not a stereo pair, it doesn't use the earpiece. It doesn't get very loud. It's super tinny. You can cover it up super easily. It just sounds bad. That is like terrible. So that would be the one thing, like if you're using this device full time, you probably are just gonna want to use headphones with it most of the time, just because that bottom firing speaker is just so bad. So what are my three biggest pros and cons for the CMF phone? So starting off with what I really like about it. The first and main thing is the price. For $200, this is a lot of phone, especially when you look just at the specs. They crammed a lot of actually pretty good specs in here, and it has a pretty unique design for that price point. The second biggest thing that I like about it is the display. The screen on here is great. Again, especially considering that $200 price point. I mean, this rivals, and I would argue even better than the $800 iPhone 15. It has the 120Hz AMOLED display, bright enough for pretty much any situation that you're going to be in, and it's almost edge to edge. So it's actually the best part of using this phone is using the display. It's great for pretty much any content that you're looking at. And then third is actually just the design. So the design of this phone is going to be different than pretty much any phone out there on the market. It has these swappable backs that you can swap out with different colors, different textures. It has a really unique design that you're not really going to see anywhere else. And for that, I think it's, you know, really unique, and I actually really like that about this. And I didn't even mention that you can attach attachments here to the back, or different accessories through this little accessory port here in the bottom right corner, like a lanyard or a phone wallet. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot more that come out after a certain period of time from either third-party manufacturers or from CMF or Nothing themselves to add to the back of here. So that's just a whole other cool aspect of it. You're probably not going to want or even need to use a case with this phone either, because it is plastic, so it's a little bit more durable. If you drop it on the back, it's not just going to shatter. You might get a little scuff here and there, but if you need to replace the back, it's like 20-30 bucks. You can replace the entire back panel, try out with another one. So I really like that about this phone. All right, now let's talk about some things that could be improved about this device. The first one, and my biggest issue with this device, is the audio quality. The speaker on here is just pure garbage. You can't get around it. It's only that one speaker here on the bottom. I think that this could be improved by simply using that speaker and the front facing speakerphone, but it doesn't do that for whatever reason, and I don't really know why. Even budget devices now use usually a stereo pair, and just the speaker by itself, you could say, oh, that's fine, you know, the speaker by itself is good. The speaker by itself is not even good at all. It's so tinny, and it doesn't get very loud, and whether you're listening to music, you're watching a movie or whatever on here, it's just not even worth listening to. So you basically have to use headphones while you're using this. My second biggest gripe with this phone is the repairability of it. So you would think that if there's a bunch of screws in the back, you can take off the back, easily replace the battery or different components like the charging port when you need to, but you really can't. This phone is not super easily repaired like some other devices like the Fairphone that you can just easily replace different parts on. You can't even replace the battery, and I think that was a cost-saving measure on their part. You know, basically just make it like a regular phone, but make it out of cheaper materials. Just because you can take off the back doesn't make anything easier if you need to replace the battery in the future. So if I were improving upon this device, I would make it easily replaceable, just take it on out. Similar to even something like a controller, like a game controller. I just replaced the battery on my Wii U gamepad, which hate on me all you want for using a Wii U, but I just replaced that, and it was one screw, take it off, and you just swap out the battery really quickly. I think that this phone really could have benefited from that. Same thing with the display. The display isn't easily taken off. It's almost as difficult as any other device. And then the third improvement I would want to see on this device is an upgraded vibration motor. The vibration motor on here isn't terrible, but it isn't good. Especially when you're doing a lot of things on the device, like I always have vibrate to tap on when I'm typing, or if you're scrolling through different parts of the UI and it vibrates. Every time you can tell that you're like, this isn't too premium. It's not terrible. It doesn't make any crazy rattling sounds or anything, but it definitely could be better. And I know other phones within this price range that honestly have the same or sometimes even a little better vibration motor. So that would be one area for improvement I'd like to see here. And then just like an honorable mention, the cameras. The cameras I would say are pretty good actually for this price. I don't think for this price range that they could have gotten better camera hardware or even up the software in order to make it any better than it actually is. I think for this price, the cameras on here are perfectly serviceable. I mean, you saw the camera samples, you can judge for yourself. Obviously, it's not gonna beat a Google Pixel in, you know, HDR photos, and it's not gonna beat an iPhone in video, but I don't think it's really aiming to beat those. It's just willing to be there for when you need it. You know, if you just take a quick photo of something, or you know, if you're with your pet and you're like, oh cute, it's doing something fun, you know, you could take a picture of your dog or something. But it's not meant to be like the highest end of the highest end. If you're looking to do that, you'll probably just get a different phone. So can't really complain about the camera much. And that's really all I have to say about the CMF Phone 1. I've really enjoyed my time using it. I think for 200 bucks, I could recommend it to pretty much anybody. I think especially if you're an Android user that is coming from another budget device, this could be a really good upgrade for you, especially if you haven't gotten another device in 2, 3, 4 years. If you are someone who enjoys stock Android, this would be a great device for you as well. Pretty much everything on here, as I kind of mentioned when I went through Nothing OS, is very stock Android with great little additions onto it. So if you have a device like you know, a Motorola phone or a Pixel or a Nokia device that are all kind of close to that stock Android and you like that feel, I think that this is just kind of a step up from that software wise. So I would recommend it to those kinds of people. If you're looking for every single thing that you can customize in the phone, then maybe just go for like a budget Samsung device, like the A series. But besides that, I mean, this phone's honestly, there's not much you can complain about for 200 bucks. I like this actually made out of plastic. It's pretty durable, and yeah, I just really enjoy it. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys later.